Wolf Theiss Soundshot. Insights and analysis from one of the leading law firms in Central, Eastern and Southeastern Europe.
Welcome to a new episode of the Wolf Theiss Soundshot. This is the second part of LGBTIQ+ and the legal industry. In our previous episode, Christian Mikosch, partner of our corporate M&A team and ally of Pride Biz Austria, and Astrid Weinwurm-Willhelm, president of Pride Biz Austria, introduced our listeners to the role of LGBTIQ+ diversity at Wolf Theiss. This second part of our episode focuses on why awareness is key, why it is important to mention every single letter of LGBTIQ+, and many more answers to those questions you didn't dare to ask.
You are, of course, depending on people. And, if you have one partner, counsel, senior associate in Vienna or anywhere making stupid gay or lesbian jokes that may destroy so much and sort of hurt that kind of progress. And then you need to build up trust once again. So that's definitely work in progress as always, and that's something we need to get to grips on. How do you report that? How do you identify behavior like that? Do you penalize it? How do you approach that? Because it's just a joke.
Yeah. I think this really has to do with awareness, and everybody has to become aware that it's not okay to make, let's say, homophobic jokes. And as I said before, this experiment, imagine you're heterosexual and nobody must know. This allows people to understand why the topic is important and why it's not okay to make jokes on that topic. It's not okay to make jokes on the skin tone, and it's not okay to make jokes on the sexual orientation.
That's a very good point, because I think that's one of the best explanations, because I think all of us, it doesn't matter where we are, have realized, it's not cool to make that kind of jokes involving the N-word, skin tone, also ethnicity. We've built up offices in former war zones where in the 90s people were killing each other. And of course, these are sensitive topics. And,
absolutely.
Everything having to do with this kind of diversity should also be as sensitive. It's not rocket science, and people know very well what to do and how to act, and this is kind of a professionalism which we expect from our people, actually. But that's a very good comparison.
Yeah. I think building up the awareness is a really important starting point, and then people will understand why and also what is the benefit from it. A higher loyalty, a higher employer attractivity, everything that belongs to these HR topics and the work performance, everything is related to the leadership and also to the awareness of the leaders in the countries. Yes, it is important that we keep our people because we have invested in them until they became who they are now. And this is why, and the reason for them to stay with us and not changing to any other of the law firms is because we treat them with appreciation, and we use their resources and perspectives for our common goals.
No,
and I think this is really, really important.
In my experience, not only in Vienna, when we had loads and loads of gay lawyers, some of them were out and proud. It was obvious, and it was not even an issue, not to say a problem for them. On their Facebook postings, they were very vocal about it, and everybody thought it was absolutely cool with them. And then, on the other hand, there are other people who just don't want to come out. How do we differentiate between that? Should we differentiate? Is that how do we deal with that? Because on the one hand, we want to have a strong community. On the other hand, we don't want to force anybody to come out.
Well, in the end, it always needs to be a personal decision to be out. But still, if you can win some of the out people to act as a role model, to be on the stage and tell about their experiences, this can be internal events, this can be events like this podcast, for example, or other formats. The more people are visible as being out and being proud about that, the easier it is for the others.
Okay.
Of course, we will not be able to force, or we should not try to force them, but in the end, it should be easily possible that there is a person, as you said, Vertrauensperson, a person from the community I can talk to and discuss with this person about the risks and also about the opportunities. Because it is an opportunity to be out, because you can act much more freely. So it is a different world, being out at your workplace or being in the closet, let's say.
So to say. Yeah, I see. And I see, applying your experiment, saying like, imagine if you're heterosexual and nobody is supposed to know it. I can see that point that, once you're out, it's your life is in a way easier. And then it's our job not to make the people feel that they have now a stamp on their head, which sort of like pushes them in a certain direction. I mean, I always thought that we are good at this, but it's always good to to check and to be certain about that.
Before you mentioned, don't we have much more important things to do? Is it really necessary to talk about the LGBT diversity topic because there are not so many people? And I think it is important to take into account all diversity dimensions, one after the other or together as an integrative process. We have to keep in mind that we are all affected, let's say, by each and every diversity dimension. Let's say I'm a white lesbian woman with 2 children. My eyes are weak, so I'm also affected by the dimension inclusion. Yeah, but I can wear contact lenses, so I'm not really affected, and I will turn 48 years, so I'm also almost affected by the dimension generation management. So I'm already getting old. I speak some languages. I speak some languages, but none of them is an Eastern European one. So I could not really work in one of your subsidiaries. So you see, we belong to every diversity dimension. This is why I'm taking this example. Every person is young or older and is male, female, inter or transgender. So we have every aspect within our personality. So we need to be aware of that. It's not me against the others. And I think this is an important point. Yeah.
Now we completely understand where you're coming from. Not agreeing on the age because we are the same age and we're not old. No. Okay. No, but I completely get it. We have additional aspects. For instance, whether you wear a 3-piece suit or not, the way you dress, that has changed a lot in our organization, thankfully, because I'm not a 3-piece suit guy. And at the end of the day, I think everybody from Wolf Theiss can relate to one or the other of these categories. And I know that once people stopped wearing 3-piece suits, many people were really relieved that this will not destroy their career when they, lounge about in jeans. And so we can see the aspects, and I think this answers the question really, really well. It's not about promoting LGBTQ+ to the detriment of other interests. Exactly. It is just a part of the equation, the part of a very complex equation. And I can say from my experience, we have tackled this leadership problem, since, the last 20 years. Loads of resources were spent on, developing these kind of leadership and in training our people, especially our partners. And I know that we have developed in the right direction. I know how, in 1998, when I started, how certain behavior was rewarded or not rewarded. And I know that we are definitely going in the right direction. And so I completely agree that this is one aspect, and it's not an irrelevant aspect. It's actually an important aspect for our leadership skills, and we'll definitely need to continue up on that.
But if you're thinking about your process now and the next steps, who would you say is invited to engage in this very exciting, let's say, and creative process.
Yet I think everybody is invited to engage. So it doesn't matter whether you are lesbian, gay, straight, trans, inter. We made this sort of like mistake before because we thought only when we have a strong community, then we should act. Yeah, that doesn't work because everybody knows we have quite a turnover, which comes naturally because lawyers start their career with us. Some of them stay with us, but not all. So we have this natural turnover. And sometimes you have, many gay lawyers in a certain field. You have a real community, good fun. And then, people leave and the next people come, and it just so happens that nobody's there from the community. But, standing still doesn't really help. So we need not only people from the community, we need the allies. We need people who are interested in that. We need people who have their own personal values and want to contribute. We need people who are interested and are just there. Just lending your voice in support will help us. And of course, it is not only Vienna. Yeah, Vienna as a city has a good history of this kind of openness, but we have to reach out over our entire network. And I think there are countries where we can make a difference, and this is also something we need to keep in mind. I've heard a lot that people were saying like, well, we can do that for employment law in Vienna. Yeah, that's a good place. This is where it belongs. But I'm a project lawyer in Ukraine, and I cannot deal with this. This will cost me my clients. People will laugh at me at the streets, and so on and so forth. Yeah, but that's not true. If you look into other law firms, our competitors, or the larger international law firms, I mean, think of places like Allen Overy, Clifford Chance. These are like the magic circle firms. They are like huge, really big, thousands of lawyers. They all have this diversity. They carry it on their web pages, and it doesn't matter in which country they are. And they are carrying this kind of diversity also on their Russian web pages. So, I invite everybody to check for themselves. And these lawyers do not lose clients because of that.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have the conviction, the self-esteem. We know what we are doing. We know that diversity is important for us, that it's an important value, and we don't fear to lose clients. You mentioned the straight allies. These are the heterosexual people who are acting as ambassadors, as multipliers on the topic. And these are really the bridge builders for the topic between the communities, let's say the LGBT community, but also the other communities of the other diversity dimensions. They are the bridge builders. They want to engage and they connect to the rest of the world, let's say, to the rest of the internal world, but also towards outside of the law firm. And this is really, really important, and we must not underestimate the importance of this role. I think the idea is to start with role models and start with establishing some kind of rainbow network, employee resource group. Most of the companies, in my experience, start with some kind of rainbow network. It's like more an informal get-together. But then developing towards an employee resource group, which is a real value also for the company, which really brings a resource, is a resource to the company. And there you have things like starting this employee resource group to work, to have some kind of structure, to allow this engagement within working time and so on. These are all the questions that come afterwards. So as soon as you have developed from the Rainbow Network to the Employee Resource Group, then there's again a new structure building up and new questions arising. But this is then the real resource also for the company.
So the straight allies allow for building up a network like a rainbow network because it allows people to participate without having the stamp gay or lesbian.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's an important aspect which I wasn't aware of. You
Yes.
know? So we need straight allies.
Yes.
to open up that network, because some of our offices are really, really small. So when you're like the only one part of the Rainbow Network, you will be the only gay in the office, which you may or may not want to be. And so I see that's a good point. Yeah.
And I guess in your case, it will be a Rainbow Network or employee resource group all over Wolf Theiss. So it will not be one Viennese Rainbow Network and then one.
No, it will be all over. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And they will have once a year a get together maybe, or attached to some other conference or whatever meeting, so they can get together in person, and the other meetings will be virtual. We are used to that by the time.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I get it. So a strong straight component would actually be as much as important as people from the community. And even if we have an office where there is nobody from the community, that's also important. It will also give us the possibility to tackle some interesting legal questions, because we don't know the situation I don't know the situation in some of our countries.
Yeah.
I know that in Hungary and in Poland it's difficult. I suspect that Ukraine may not be the most gay-friendly place in the world at the moment. We don't have an office in Russia, so that works well. And in the other countries, it's a mixed bag. Yeah?
Yes.
The Pride March in Belgrade, I think, came under attack. So there's a lot of issues, a lot of questions, and I think the Rainbow Network may be a very good starting point with the notion that it has a strong straight ally element to it.
And as soon as this Rainbow Network has developed to become an employee resource group, they will support HR. They will bring in their perspectives. They will suggest event ideas or impulses. They will probably support with the onboarding material. For example, in this onboarding material, it should be stated: this is our Rainbow Network. This is our employee resource group. This is how you can engage. And this is how you also make visible your entire values and event formats.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah.
What is your vision for Wolf Theiss, let's say, for the year 2025?
I think when it comes to the topic we are talking about, I would want to see such a group. And most importantly, it needs to be institutionalized, meaning that it should not depend on a few people who, may be there and then next week they're with another law firm. That would be a shame. We want to have that institutionalized, and it's just part of our processes, and that would enable us to build on that, and then maybe also get new ideas and develop further on that. So this employee support group should be one of the targets we have. And if you ask me personally, I would like to also be able to tackle that on a more regional basis, so not just Austria. I would want to have all of our offices integrated, and maybe we have people who want to pick a fight when it comes to these, because after all, we are lawyers. We know the law. We can support the community on a much wider scale, and so that would be a nice thing. Yeah, we've already started talking to the office managing partners. What's their view? Of course, some of them are cautious. Some of them say, like, look, we don't want to, fall afoul of the leading party or the leading man in our country. But I know my partners. I know that there will always be sort of a certain need to, push the envelope and do the right thing. And I know the values of my partners. So I guess by that time we will look more outwards as to what we can do and how we can support this wider vision of diversity, not only in Austria but in the entire region.
Looking outwards is a good point, because we need also to take into account that, let's say, young male potential employees, well-educated and heterosexual, are also looking for more diversity-oriented employers. So it's not only about doing something for the communities, but doing something for the really normal let's say, under parentheses, normal male, white and heterosexual men, because this generation, millennials or alpha or whatever they are called now, they are seeking also diversity-oriented companies. And one more idea for the vision for Wolf Theiss in 2025. Pride Biz Austria awards the Meritus every second year. And I guess by that time you have really high chances to win the Meritus Award. So I guess by that time, in November 2025, Wolf Theiss has a good chance to win that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what I really also would like to see. Not that I have a lot of ideas right now, but maybe our listeners will be able to work something out, because winning the law firm of the year here and there is nice, but that would be something new, and that would be also something for our pitches, which we can proudly display. And I also agree with you on the showing this diversity, because just think about the topic maternity leave for men. That's really important, and I've seen some of our competitors, the partnership is still discussing that, and this is something which we offer, and I've seen that just because of this, we've got such great people joining us, and so showing this flag will also help us a lot. And it's not that it's a big effort, because people are there and we have the mindset already. Before we close, just a few real quick questions for me, if I may, since I have you here. So we are lawyers. Lawyers like definitions, and something we need to understand is LGBTQ+, is that the right term? Are we missing letters? Are we using too many letters? What does it stand for, and how do you apply it?
Okay, well, this term, this acronym changes more or less every second year, but in my opinion, it's important to use these letters. L stands for lesbian, G for gay, B for bisexual, T for trans, and Q for queer, which means people who identify as queer do not want to be put into boxes, don't want to be put into boxes concerning their gender identity or their sexual orientation. And the plus stands for every other gender identity and sexual orientation. I personally, or also at Pride Biz Austria, we use LGBTIQ. So we include also the intersex topic, because we are also taking into account these. But in my opinion and also experience, it depends on the organization, which focus they take on to which, let's say, dimension, sexual orientation or gender identity, and which term to use. So I think LGBTQ+ or LGBTIQ+ is one term that includes everybody except heterosexuals. These we do not include in this term. Sorry for that.
That's okay, because as I learned, the world is heterosexual normative.
Heteronormative. So the problem with the sexual is that it always refers to sexuality. This is the basis problem, let's say. Heteronormativity means we are all socialized, we have all grown up with the meaning or the thought the world is heterosexual. So men and women are together and there's no other solution. But as we grow up, many of us learn that it's not the case, that there are other orientations as well.
So it doesn't take away anything from heteros or heterosexuals to use that kind of term. No. And there is no sort of committee which on a national or an international basis provides every 2 years which letters to use. It's freestyle. Yes. With a certain amount of respect you have for the communities you are addressing.
Exactly. Perfect.
To give you sort of like how a lawyer would try to, define which letters to use.
Exactly.
It depends on the audience. It depends on sort of like your own preference. It should always be respectful, and but there are no hard and fast rules. Missing a letter doesn't mean you disrespect a certain community.
Exactly. If you're including the plus, it's always
you're on the safe side.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good. But this is something which people, which I at least always wanted to understand, and it's also an interesting topic because it's sort of like the outward sign, and I think that's also important, and also to understand that there is not a lot of things you can do wrong, as long as you are respectful, as long as you are open-minded, that's cool. It's not a very exclusive club with loads of signs which you need to comply with. What would you expect from a law firm like Wolf Theiss in 2025? What's the best outcome you would want to see?
I think we already defined that. Reaching a status where from outside a person looking for a job knows what you are doing internally, sees what are your values, sees that you are taking into account not only gender diversity or ethnicity, but also LGBTIQ topics, that you're organizing internal or also external events, that you're sharing your experiences in panel discussions, that you are sharing your experience, for example, in our cooperation Pride Biz Austria, that you have established a strong internal employee resource group, that you are exchanging with other employee resource groups. This is a really strong vision. And I think it's also realistic, because you have mentioned that you've learned it's not enough to have 1 or 2 out lawyers, because if they leave, then you don't have any structure anymore. So it's important to have something established, some strategically and structurally implemented mini organization, let's say, an employee resource group, which really is a resource not only for the community but also for the entire firm. So this is a really good target, and it's also reachable.
All right, yeah. And winning the Meritus Award.
Yes, of course.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Super. Then many thanks for being here and sharing your experience.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Wolf Theiss Soundshot. For more information, you can contact us via email at soundshot@wolftheiss.com or visit our website at www.wolftheiss.com. You can also follow us here to receive further updates on developments in law and business from one of the leading law firms in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe.